how social media affects people's perception of reality.
Hi, my name is Josh, and today I'll be discussing how social media often leads to a false expectation or perception of reality through the online web and leads users that use social media frequently to develop a poor mental health. This is due to its general influence on the population of the world, including the younger adults or teens, and through its abilities such as editing information on pictures or videos or editing information about very important topics such as politics, for example. I interviewed 3 different people, all of which who use social media pretty frequently, 1 college student and 2 high school students, to explore their experiences with social media and how social media has affected them through its, kind of like information or propaganda.
My name is Dylan, and I'm a senior at Shadow Creek High School, and I'm 17 years old.
My name is Nicole Jan Torres Roa, and I'm the age of 24, and I graduated from the University of North Texas at the summer of 2024.
My name is Cedric, and I am 17 years old.
So first off, before we get into the points and interviews, I'd like to bring up a statistic I found on an article published on the American Psychological Association on the detrimental effects of high social media usage on teens in terms of mental health.
So according to author and researcher for the American Psychological Association, Tori De Angelis, I hope I pronounced that right, on her article titled "Teens are spending nearly 5 hours daily on social media. Here are the mental health outcomes." They find in their research that 41% of teens with the highest social media use who rate their overall health as poor or very poor, compared with 23% of those with the lowest use.
So this first point I would like to dive into is how the editing of information or videos contributes to the spreading of this false reality on social media. So in this upcoming point in interview, that is what I'll be mainly discussing on how editing photos or editing information on photos or videos can, help spread this false reality on social media and pretty much the internet.
Okay. So how do you think information based on photos and videos impacts people's trust on the media?
Well, when it comes to things in the media, there's a lot of misconceptions that you see, especially when it comes to these travel websites. Especially on like Instagram, if you see one place in person versus like another place on the photo, the one on the photo looks significantly better, and that's all due to
like editing?
Yeah, people editing their photos.
Okay.
And that can be pretty misleading to travelers.
So do you think that this concept of editing photos or editing information on photos and videos can like affect one's standards of what to expect? Like, for example, in a topic such as like fitness, where like many of these influencers will lie about their PED usage and like will claim that this body they built was built naturally and that anyone can do it, when in reality, none of their audience can do it because they're not on PED usage. So how do you think this could affect someone's standards?
It just creates unrealistic body standards that aren't really realistic. And so, especially with, like what you said with the PED drugs, most people will never end up looking like that naturally, but they have the false misperception that they can accomplish that. But in reality, it's through the use of those PED drugs.
So based on what you said and knowing that most of social media is highly edited, how is this affected of how you take in information when you're on social media?
After being tricked a couple times, you kind of like realize, oh wait, is this really real?
Yeah, is this really
especially when you're looking at places, you're like, and then you go there in person.
That's like horrible.
So after that first interview, which supports my first point of how editing pictures or videos majorly contributes to the spreading of this false reality on social media, the second point I'd like to dive into is how serious this spreading can get. As for example, take a topic like politics, for example. The spreading of information on a topic such as politics can deal very detrimental blows to people's perceptions or beliefs. So for an important topic such as politics, do you think social media twisting facts or information on it can be detrimental to one's beliefs? Like, take for example, a credible source claiming Donald Trump is secretly working with terrorists to falsely bash his name, and now Trump supporters have a belief that Trump is a terrorist even though it's fake. Do you think that misinformation on important topics can have an effect similar to one's beliefs?
I think so that it can, because social media can be a vast of information, and propaganda has been here for so many years, and each decade can be very different, and it can be detrimental of one's beliefs, especially if you believe something very strongly, and sometimes the opposing side can be strongly against it, and sometimes you feel like you have to follow the crowd amongst them, even though you think something different, because you don't want to be the one man out, or you just feel like you don't want anyone to bash against you, and you feel like maybe I should change my beliefs because of someone else's thinks it's wrong.
So one more thing, do you think that the effects of information on important topics are detrimental to one's mental state? So, for example, going back to that Trump example I explained earlier, a Trump supporter may be devastated to hear that this person they've been following is actually a bad guy. So, do you think that topics like that and spreading information on these topics can be detrimental to one's mental state, like this example I just explained?
Yes, because ever since comparing between the 90s and early 2000s, the internet has been mostly more logic and slow information. But ever since 2009 and for current 2024, such as Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, especially in TikTok, there's a lot of spread of misinformation, especially the one that you're following. As a fan, like, you think nothing's wrong with them, but at the end of the day, you don't know who they are, and sometimes their bad personality or bad past that does bring up. Sometimes you feel like, should I be a fan, or sometimes should I still be a fan? But sometimes, like, when you're comparing yourself to other people's lives, it will affect your mental health and it will deteriorate it. And that's why some of our generation nowadays, that they would just cut off social media because it's so bad to the point where it feels like you're the one in the wrong. But it's not, because you're not the only one that is going through it.
So this previous interview shows that social media's misinformation or forms of propaganda can be detrimental to one's beliefs and perceptions. But now it's time to explore my third point for this video, is how social media affects people's expectations and perceptions while also driving them to a possibly negative mindset due to this concept of like misinformation. Has social media ever affected you mentally, as for example, like affecting your self-esteem or sparked any doubts in yourself due to what you see online?
There has been a couple of times where I felt emotionally negative. I've kind of grown out of that stage though, because it happened a lot at my younger stage, but I've learned to kind of avoid to not listen to everything I see on social media. And but I definitely do think it can change like one's mindset or belief, and it can even change somebody's whole opinion of what they wanted in the future or what they just wanted to do.
Okay. So do you believe there's an epidemic for users who use social media very frequently to develop this same negative mindset of personal doubt or very negative beliefs about the world?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of like controlling in communication, especially social media. I could say it's probably the number one like thing that could like change everybody's opinion about something.
Spreading misinformation and stuff like that.
Yeah, everything's about just online, digital. It's every information you see it could be false, it could be true.
Yeah. Okay. Cedric's case, he does mention that he has taken negative mental effects due to social media's misinformation. So what can we fully take from these interviews? What we can fully take is that social media does indeed, spread this false reality and negative mindset to people due to spreading its misinformation and propaganda, whatever the topic may be, whether it be about fitness, politics, etc. So despite these interviews possibly proving my statement about how social media affects one's mental state and gives this false perception of a false reality in one's mind, we would need scientific research to back this claim up. So by going back to the article I mentioned earlier of the American Psychological Association and how teens are spending nearly 5 hours daily on social media by author and researcher Tori De Angelis. Again, I hope I pronounced that right. We are presented with more and newer information on the effects.
So going back into the information of this article, it states that, for example, 10% of the highest use group expressed suicidal intent or self-harm in the past 12 months compared with the 5% of the lowest group. Similarly, there is also a correlation in terms of parental relationships. So it says that 22% of the highest users with poor parental relationships and monitoring expressed thoughts of suicide and self-harm compared to 2% of high users with strong parental relationships and monitoring.
So this information further proves my points and the points made in each interview of how social media's misinformation can affect someone's mental state. Now you're probably wondering, but hey, social media is very beneficial. You can learn many things on the internet and you can discover many things on the internet. But again, you have to take into account that 90% or actually all of social media can be edited, and with the introduction of things like AI, things can be completely made up. So for example, you can see a place that just looks so realistic and people are saying, go here or travel here, when it doesn't even exist in real life and it's just a video made by someone through AI. Then are you really discovering something new, or are you just discovering something that could just possibly waste your time? So in conclusion, while social media may be very good at so many things, we have to recognize the downsides of it. And in this video, I recognize the downside that social media can negatively affect someone's beliefs, mindset, and their mental health, and spread this, mindset of like a false reality that simply isn't true through the factors and points that I just explained in this video and the interviews I conducted along with the article I mentioned today. So in a few seconds, I will show a QR code on the screen to access a survey, and this survey is mainly just for you guys to reflect on your social media usage and really make you think about if social media is really affecting your beliefs and perceptions to a certain extent. State your name and age.